Hello guys, to understand the truth about the Russian business sphere and thus their economy, you have to be creative and a bit of a detective. So do turn on your detective mode together with me because we will talk a little bit more about the Russian businesses, but from a very unusual perspective. All because it's impossible to get access to the real numbers describing the state of the Russian business on their official pages. For example, they often shut down web pages that previously posted statistics. Well, all because they understand some investigative journalists, bloggers can actually analyze the situation and see the truth. But there is one kind of numbers that they cannot hide because you are able to read about that on the news, but in a very specific area of the news, some criminal detective stories. It's a little bit morbid, but since the beginning of the full-scale invasion, Russian businesses lost a lot of top managers. Many of them stopped acting. And here I'm trying to be polite with YouTube policies because you realize many of them jumped out of the windows or literally lost their heads. And I've made a list of the most problematic spheres of the Russian business based on the number of that top managers. So let's talk about that because it tells us way more than any of Putin's press conferences about the collapse of the Russian businesses. My name is Anna, I'm from Ukraine, I'm in Ukraine, and if you want to see the defeat and demilitarization of Russia, subscribe and share these videos to spread the truth. Because once again, rarely you will find in the English-speaking media these very obvious and very illustrative statistics. More than 20 top Russian managers died since the beginning of the special military operation. That is a lot because we're not talking about some minor businesses. We are talking about the largest Russian businesses. And when I will start naming these companies, you once again will be surprised that you didn't hear about that from your newspapers. And this tells a lot. Perhaps these people saw the size of the problem. Perhaps they tried to do something. Maybe even persuade someone in the Kremlin to stop the war, to save the collapsing Russian economy, but it did not bring them success. Well, let's begin with the spheres that are represented by most of these window jumpers. Perhaps in Russia, they can launch a competition, all-national competition in that. So the most problematic sphere, and I'm sure you can guess it, of course, it is oil, gas, and energy. And the majority of people neutralized, should I use the word, represent this sphere, and it all began long before the gasoline crisis hit Russia. I can only imagine what will happen now with this fuel crisis reaching Moscow, the capital of the evil empire. So I've made a list and I will read this list because it took me some time, but the head of transport service of Gazprom, then former vice president of Gazprom Bank, and you already recognize Gazprom. CEO Astra Shipping was working for Gazprom in the Arctic. Top manager of Novatek, that is also an oil company. Financial manager of Gazprom. So not only Putin destroyed the success of Gazprom that was once the symbol of Russia's abnormal natural wealth. It was a company that supported various championships. I'm sure you saw it in your countries on commercials and elsewhere. So Putin cancelled Gazprom literally, and we've counted like 5 top managers. And the second one is Lukoil, another name that I'm sure you can recognize. Chairman of the board was neutralized, then his deputy, who started acting as a head, disappeared. Vice president, head of fuel union, and some Belgian trading firm represented by the Russians, and vice president of Transneft. That is a lot. Can you imagine something similar happening in your country and not told about in the headlines? But that's the reality of the modern Russia. Subscribe to witness the collapse of the Russian regime. It can actually save more lives even of the Russian top managers. And to speed up that defeat, support our new NAFO campaign. It is running, we have more than 10% collected, but that's the best way to invest in peace and security, so do consider supporting and getting 3 more beautiful patches. So oil, gas and energy. The second very problematic one is mining and metallurgy. Once again, it returns us back to a very important fact that Russia is a resource country. All they sell is the natural resources of the land that actually do not belong to Putin. They suck the money and energy from republics that otherwise could have been rich. All the money are in Moscow, in St. Petersburg, and all they can offer to this depressive, because of such policy, regions is conscription and meat grinders on the front lines. So mining and metallurgy, and actually what made me think about this topic was a recently found CEO of K Potash. He was found literally after he lost his head under one of the bridges in Kaliningrad. And the chairman of board of Uralkali, that was his colleague, neutralized previously. Construction and real estate, the head and main shareholder of Samolyot, that is the largest Russian construction company, and they have a serious crisis in real estate because people stopped buying flats. I think it's pretty obvious: no money, growing inflation, and perhaps also this vulnerability of more and more Russian regions because of constantly failing air defense. Then we have another very big sphere that suffers from the shortages of top managers, and that is banking, finance, and some logistics. I've decided to unite them. A woman that was neutralized, the local bank head. Then Yakut Energo, that is Republic of Sakha, very far away from the Kremlin, was neutralized. Then the head of the development of Far East and Arctic, and also digital logistics CEO. That's the name of the company. More than 20 since 2022, and these are very rich, very big companies. We may say the ones that do a lot for the Russian budget. I mean, like, there is such a Russian word. Yeah, I can speak Russian, though I don't speak Russian. Бюджетообразующие, the one that create the budget. So these are not just simple businessmen, even though that would be a lot of simple businessmen, ordinary businessmen. We're talking about the top management on the level of the Russian Federation, more than 20 since the beginning of the 2022. And here I have a question. How do you think, how many of them jumped out of the window? And I'm not joking. Give me your versions in the comments below. Be careful not to use any aggressive words, because this way you pessimize the channel. We have to be very careful. I'm super grateful that YouTube gives this platform to spread the truth, but we have to respect the policies. So be careful not to write anything, because then the comments disappear and the videos are not recommended. So be careful. Choose nice words. Talk about this unnice things happening inside Russia. But out of these that I have enumerated to you, five people jumped out of the window. That is not normal. And I don't hear any political leaders, any great Democrats, advocates talk about this tendency. Because if you're looking like for good Russians, it's really difficult to find them. But you can think of people that do not survive because of the Kremlin regime, that it is also bad for people inside Russia. Of course, they could have changed a lot. We do that in Ukraine. We practice democracy. It's actually very good for the health of the country. But even if we're not talking about that, like, think about what is happening inside Russia. Putin is definitely crazy. He does not understand the state of the Russian economy. He demonstrates that. And perhaps all of these people, they were not anti-war, they were not pro-Ukraine, but they simply saw the reality. They were talking about it. They were trying to save their businesses and were neutralized by the Kremlin's regime. And that is why the sooner we defeat and demilitarize Russia, the better it is, not just for Ukraine, not just for Europe, the world, but also even for Russia. And to celebrate successful Ukrainian achievements like the spiderweb operation or our new Flamingo missiles, we decided to add these designs to our merch shop. I know you liked spiderweb t-shirt. I'm sure you will like our Flamingo design. Do check what you like, and I'm always grateful when you get the items and you become Ukrainian ambassador, reminding people about our fight and the need to defeat and demilitarize Russia. Thank you so much for buying me coffees, becoming my patrons and sponsors of the channel. Remember to follow me on Instagram, X, Threads, Blue Sky, and we have an amazing Discord community. All the links in the description of this video. But most importantly, thank you for choosing to know the truth. Please share, like videos, comment them in a respectful way. And I'm very grateful that united we stand. Slava Ukraini!